Greetings and
Uh,
salutations. Vince Robinson here, and I am joined by Rofeh Mockserial Yehuda. Those of you who are listening to 360 Info Network within the past hour, you are invited to join us or rejoin us in this conversation. I just want to provide some context for those of you who may not be aware. Brother Mocksherial has a very impressive history. He, in my estimation, is a historical figure based on his life experience. So it is really an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with him. He does many things. One thing that I know of him is he is a jeweler. I have a piece of handcrafted jewelry that I wear almost every day that he made for me a couple years ago. But beyond that, he is someone who has a tremendous understanding of things of a cosmic nature. We spoke earlier and he described himself as a celestial scientist. So we're going to talk about this science that some folks know as astrology. It is a science that has a relationship to everything that happens in this universe. And hopefully, as we have this conversation, you will have better insight as to that relevance and how it directly impacts you. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to Open Door Live, Brother Mocksherial.
okay. Again,
So,
honored, and actually, I am a witness. I could say a verifiable witness because I can bring history to support these things that I'm going to share. I will start with myself. At a point, I was normal in Chicago, uh, trying to, I guess, accomplish the American dream. I was going to, two different colleges. Uh, Newborn baby, moved my wife at 21 to a new townhouse in Chicago, and trying to live life, enjoy, uh, work hard, save money. At a point, however, it became I became, my wife and I both became conscious that we did not want to raise our children in Chicago, nor America, actually. Why? Because we had become aware and our desire, our passion was aimed at something higher, freedom. Freedom. I mean, we had been all these generations under the yoke, slavery, and descendants of slaves, etc. We wanted to break that. We wanted to open up a whole new lifestyle. So,
Brother Mocksherial,
yes.
we're having difficulty hearing you. I think it might be because you're too far away from the phone.
Uh, okay, well, then maybe I need to hold it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now. I just don't want people to miss out on what you're saying. And so now we can hear you, but your hand is obscuring part of the lens of the camera.
How about now?
Well, the hand is still there. Maybe if you held it with the other hand.
Which hand am I? The left hand is in the way.
Yeah, the left hand is in the way because the lens is on that side of the phone. So if you hold it with
Okay.
your other
Okay.
hand,
Okay. My whole. Uh-oh. Tripped out.
okay, it should
Back,
return.
right?
Yeah,
Is
we're
my
back.
hand still in the way?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Okay, so we
Put
can
my.
hear you and see you. I'm just concerned. I do this for a living, so I know how difficult it is and how technical it is. Um, we see you and we hear you okay. So if you could, I want you to resume from where you were speaking, and you were saying that you and your wife wanted to find freedom.
Yeah. The whole. The whole. How would you say? Inspiration was to do something different, to do something better. right? So we worked real hard. I was saving money. I was going to school, looking forward to teaching in Africa, etc. Then, as I mentioned in the other podcast, I ran into Oti Ankara, and he just from out of nowhere, it's like the information I'm gonna share with you. From out of nowhere, he just came up and asked me, Mocksherial, what's your birthday? I looked at him, I said, my birthday is July 6th, 1943. Stopped for a minute. He said, that table over there, sit down and start making jewelry. I was like, huh? He was a master. He was a master sculptor, fine artist, jeweler, scholar. And what I didn't know, he was an astrologer. So my first pair of earrings, I mean, it was perfect. I was able to do it. I had never had no access to working with tools or wire, gemstones or nothing. I finished them and sold them for $50, that one pair. And the rest is history. That was 50 years ago in Chicago. So with that now, I was no longer like, how would you say, I was not reduced to the option of only teaching, but I could also take autonomy, use autonomy, apply autonomy, and be the master of my own time. So, I mean, I could make jewelry at 2 in the morning, I could make it in the afternoon, etc. So this was a freeing up process, which added to my, how'd you say, my fervor and still quest to leave America. So next, as I visited the brother and worked in his studio, he said, you need to go see Professor Black, James Black. He was an astrologer, master, taught astrology at Duke University. So I went to see him. And again, I gave him my birth information and he said, have a seat. He went into his thinking processes, references, and whatever, and came back with this astounding, astounding uh, reading on who I was and what I would do. That I would travel, which I did. That I would publish many books. That I would teach. That I would have autonomy, but also that I would do astonishing things having to do with health, which turned out to be preventive medicine and holistic healing. I ended up being in charge of a clinic. But first, I was trained at what is, man, probably the most profound uh, black run, black meaning, uh, oh, I missed a piece. I got on a plane and went to Northeast Africa. I'm sorry. My wife, we determined that it would not be so safe for me to take she and the children with me for me to go and check it out and then send for them. Okay, well, that never happened. But while there, I had a getaway card. I could have went to anywhere in Africa, but landing in Israel, I was so overwhelmed with the love, the outpouring, the spirit of my people there that I never left. So, so next came my invitation to be admitted to the School of the Prophets, which I was, and there I learned divine preventive holistic healing, and history will, how would you say, confirm that I was able to do miraculous things, just like that brother was able to tell me. It's been like 50 years now. He's been able to tell me what it was that I would do and become. So my belief in what, again, I was inspired to name uh, divine celestial science, but also breaking the seals. The breaking the seals is the application of this knowledge, ancient knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that our forefathers and mothers, I say, knew. So there, I was able to move on, and I would say 118-day fast contributed to this connection, but also in the process of heading the clinic there, which was called the Beit Chaim, the House of Life. Some extraordinary things happened. I mean, I was able to cure illnesses, whooping cough, malaria, uh, prostate cancer. Whoa, yeah, for real. And all other kind of elephantiasis, all kind of things that our people were sugar diabetes that our people suffered from, which I came to understand unnecessarily. So just by changing your diet, uh, detoxing, putting discipline in terms of what you eat, when you eat it, how much you eat, etc. So these things became a reality. So I'm not speaking as something that I theorize. I'm telling you, there are live people right now, thousands of them that know that holistic healing, preventive, especially preventive healthcare, it works. So with that, I was also invited to become the Minister of Culture at the time. And it was there that this profound experience allowed me to understand that people born at certain times that they incur what is called in homeopathy, they have different levels, different degrees, yes, of immune system, but also of their constitution. You know, and simply said, that's their ability to resist some diseases, but be vulnerable to others. Understood about the so-called Aries sign, Aries, and how it impacts on the head or face, right, with injuries, etc. I began to understand the behavior connected with that, drawing on the uh, training that I learned once I understood that Dr. James, Professor Black, was not a fluke. Then I began to study everything that I could, going back and forth, forgive me. But I actually took an apartment near the University of Chicago, a court library, and began to understand everything that had to do with astrology, astronomy, metaphysics. So coming back to the Minister of Culture position, I began to start giving birth, cards to celebrate people's birthday, Earth Day, Solar Return Day, etc. And then I began to understand again, I mean, with no fluke, that certain people had certain problems. To start with myself, born under the sign of Cancer, so called, which I advise that we stop even using that name, that terminology, and adding energy into that. We we call it miracle of the nines, right? More on that. That's a whole class which I'll be teaching soon. But I understood that people with cancers have a vulnerability to stomach illnesses, right? And then I began to understand the relationship between Leo and the heart. Vince, I'm about to run out of time on my battery. I'm gonna have to recharge after a few. Um, Cancer, yes. Taurus, Nick, back, etc. So it began to make sense as I'm treating these various people. I'm paying attention to their birthdays. So I'm like, wow, whoa, this is, how would you say, edifiable. So I went on and on and on. But as I began to go on, I would also encounter challenges. For example, my own daughter, about 3 years old, was suffering from pneumonia. And all the different herbal formulas I had access to weren't they weren't healing. She was burning up, losing weight, burning up, didn't want to have no appetite, etc. I remember one day running out just going on a run, clearing my head, praying, running up a mountain. I became fatigued, and I was about to quit. And suddenly this surge of energy came on me, and I was like, wow, where did that come from? I'm looking around, and then I see this plant over by the road, a dusty plant, brownish green with big leaves. And in my mind, I said, hey, you had something to do with that? And the answer was, yeah, I had something to do with that. Go on and run up to the top of the mountain and come back. I got something for you. Right? And when I came back, it began to tell me that this will heal. This is what you're looking for your daughter and what have you. But there are more plants that go with it. So I started just at random pulling up plants, and where they said, stop, stop. No, it's not like that. The plants are shielding. Some of the outer plants are shielding the plants that have the most benefics, the more potentized. So again, I was paying attention to an invisible spiritual connection. So after getting what I said, okay, you have enough, I was told. And then it said, take that home and then continue on. There's another a tree that has information for you. It turned out to be a eucalyptus tree. The first plant was mullein, desert mullein. I'm sharing this knowledge because I've used it. I've used it in South Africa. I've used it in England. I've used it all over the States, Jamaica, etc. It worked, right? So at the end of all of that, my journey, being told from there to go to sage and other plants, which added up to 18 different, how would you say, either plants or spices. Cayenne was in there, of course. Ginger was in there. And it turned out to be, I was even given the formulas to connect it. For example, working with numerology, as it's called, or mathematics. And it never failed. So now that opened the door to me operating on a higher spiritual level of, oh, uh, my grandmama didn't know this like that. And so my faith became concrete, you know. So then coming back to the what is called astrology, I began to connect the two together and the preventive factors. I began to be able to instruct people about when did you need to detox and how you eating too much starch and when you shouldn't eat protein and lay down. All this information, I mean, yeah, of course I studied. I studied in all the libraries available in Israel, right? I studied with the Arabs, the Bedouins, who have very ancient formulas. You know, I studied with everybody. I treated Africans from Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Dahomey, all over. Even Europeans would come, Russians would come. People don't care when you are a healer and they hear about you. You know, even the hospitals were telling people, wait a minute, you got somebody, what are you coming here for? You got somebody that can cure all of these infantile diseases that your children are suffering from. So what I'm saying about the celestial bodies, it's not based on reading of books or mythologies, religions even. It's based on my personal testimony. And as I said, the plants began to open up. So also, I would have to say the stars began to talk. As a jeweler, I can feel when there are different things that are taking place, which they are now. Vince, no coincidences. Right now, we are sitting on a transition, a great celestial transition, where the so-called planet Mars, and again, we got to rename, we have to give new energy to these planets. And I see our ancestral grandmothers are on that. What does that mean? I'm saying that the God of War that the Romans took and renamed from the Greco Aries, they renamed to Mars. And Mars is brutal, bloody, murderous, etc. Yet the energy was co-opted, raped even, and prostituted, right? How could that be? Well, that's another lesson. But now our ancestral grandparents are taking Mars and how would you say, programming, if you will, modern terminology. There's a war going on amongst the stars, the reclaiming of our dominion is the point, the focal point. How can you say that? Well, the 16th century European physician, his name was Nostradamus. Some kind of way, I understood that the Black Plague was going on. He lost many of his own family and went into hermitage or recluse and began to study the celestial spheres and nature and the plants, etc. This man, it's, how would you say, if you can get some ancient, not ancient, but if you can get some older copies of the life of Nostradamus, his name is Michael Nostradamus, he spoke of the fact that when Saturn, Saturn right now is the planet that is expressing its energy through the sign called Aquarius in its Western civilization names, etymologies, etc. But how about Kokave HaMeshichim? How about stars of the Messianic age and people? On the 23rd of May this year, planet called Saturn, which your ancient name is either Kumi or Shabtai, it moves into retrograde in Aquarius. This is May 23rd, which, when it returns, which will be in late September, early October, his assessment prophecy states that Saturn returns and dominion is given back to the Black nations. There's something astronomically, even backed by history, that is available now. A portal is open where we, after having turned our backs on, called it voodoo, an abomination before the Most High and what have you, which is an abomination in itself because he created the sun, the moon, the stars, etc., to be for signs for us. What signs? What are you talking about? Astrology? All kind of signs, natural signs. The moon going through its various quarters, being not seen, then a quarter, a sliver, and then being half full, and then being full, and then reducing. These are all things, if you go to the book of Ecclesiastes, that King Solomon was able to collaborate with stages of human behavior and life. So, yes, it does call for a type of brain surgery, detoxing, right? And a closer communication out of our egos and into our hearts. There's a scripture for those that study the so-called New Testament. The apostles came to the brother, misnamed, here we go again, Yeshua is his name, Jesus, they called him. And they asked him, why do you speak in parables? Why do you speak to the people like that? He said, take heed. He said, because to you has been given to understand the mysteries of the kingdoms of the heavens, but to them it is not given. He said, because they have ears, but they can't hear. They have eyes, but they can't see. Right? He said, but if they would hear with their hearts, then I can hear them. I can heal them. Right? So it's like that. You take these things and refer them back so that the book is one book. All the information is one book. We used to say, if it came from Mickey Mouse, then we can use it, we can decipher it. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall and all the king. Yeah, but if we could use that and apply it to us having been kings and queens and royalty, etc., and having had dominion over science and technology and medicine, healing, etc., then having failed, right? Then it would be like an enigma. What's happening with the mighty people, the people that created, the originators, the first? And here they are still slaves. Okay, if not by change, then how about the mind? And how about even the spirit? So what we have to do is go back We have to go back. We have to be like it was written, born again. Yeah, well, that's going back into your mother's womb. That's on the mundane, biophysical, biochemical. No, no. Being reborn again is new thinking, new intent, new humility, new turning around from money being our gods and whatever, and being our brothers and sisters keepers. That's what the stars are saying. That's what the plants are saying right now. Tired of this. Can't this be done no better? We can't do a better job of dominion over this planet. I know we can. I'm living proof we can. I've faced death 5 times in the last 2 years, right? And the whole question was, will you curse God and die? Yeah, well, I've been there. I traveled with the pain to Lumumba and when he was being tortured. Mandela, I was there. Mandela was born on the same sign I was born under. So the pain is a portal oftentimes. And sickness is actually your being halted for the sake of not totally leaving this planet. So we have to approach life now from another perspective. The Most High is reaching out to us. The plants are reaching out. The stars are telling us things. All we have to do is listen. We have to stop. Cut off the TV. You know what I'm saying? Stop being 3 meals a day and all of that. Eating anytime you feel like it. Filling yourself up. Drinking beers and coffees. And stop that. Take control of yourself. Take control of your thoughts. Stop being a reactionary. Why you got to prove who you are? Do it. And everybody will know. That's what Confucius said. Do the thing, then write about it. You know? So we are faced right now in this whole virus syndrome is actually a precipice, right? Are we going to fall off the cliff or are we going to rise like the ancient phoenix, it's called, right? And on and on and on. We the people of the Most High. It's provable. Look at us. Who else have went through what we've gone through and yet are still here doing things? I mean, gymnastics. I mean, mathematics. Whatever. So now, though, isn't it about unifying and becoming one? Yeah, we speak all it. More dialects and languages are spoken in Africa than anywhere else. So, okay, that being said, but what about coming together in oneness to rebuild, reunite, come together, do things? It said, why can't we make the impossible possible? Right? Better things than I have done, says Yeshua, Omer Yeshua, Mahumah. He said, greater things than I have done, you can do. Do you hear that? Greater things that I have done, you can do. If you have the faith of a mustard seed. You know that mustard seed is high powered in zinc. You know that that's one of the, how would you say, preventive benefics that we can slow down this process of genocide through prostate cancer, etc. Let's call on nature. Let's take dominion, which was given to us. Let us make man and woman in the image and likeness of the Most High. And what goes with that? Said, as heaven is higher than the earth, so are my thoughts not like your thoughts, but are higher than your thoughts, and my ways not like your ways. Right? So all of these scriptures have equational and applicable capable potentiality. We have to rethink, though. We have to stop being victim to the newspapers. Sorry. Yeah, we can understand news, but do not let them put us in a duplicitous situation where we're battling our left and right brains again. Let's operate on a higher higher than fifth dimensional level and start thinking our own thoughts. Meditation is key. Stopping. Prayers are key, right? Affirmations, vision. Intent. Dunk backwards.
Brother Mocksherial, we seem to have lost your signal. Perhaps it's because you've been readjusting the phone. And I do notice that we have quite a few folks who are watching us. What I would like to do is to resume this broadcast when we can get all of our technical issues worked out to make this a much more comfortable viewing experience and listening experience for those who are interested in the subject matter. It is apparent to me that you have so much to offer us in terms of understanding of history and understanding of things that are going on right now. And I think that it's important that we understand these things. So in all fairness to those who are viewing right now, what I'd like to do is schedule a broadcast with you and promote that broadcast so that those who are viewing will have another opportunity to engage in this discourse and to gain some understanding. Does that sound fair to you, my brother? Okay, once again, we are having technical difficulties. Okay, so you're back.
I'm back.
Okay.
Can you hear me, see me?
Yeah, hear you.
I came from outside to plug my charger in. I ran out of battery.
Okay. Yeah, I was anticipating that was going to happen. Is there any way that you can sit the phone down so that you don't have to hold it? Because I know it can be
I'm working on that now, but I mean, can you see me?
Oh, yeah, I see and hear you.
Okay, well then we're good.
Okay, we're good. Okay. So you covered quite a bit of ground. There are so many things that we could talk about. One thing that you mentioned was your understanding of how plants and herbs have restorative and also have preventative aspects to them. And it seems as though you have an extensive knowledge of that. I think that will be a great benefit to people. But I'm also concerned at this moment. When we did the radio broadcast, you were talking about the fact that people were being asked to leave the country. And these are folks that you have a direct relationship to. I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to have a conversation with you about what's going on right now. And even more importantly, as you talked about what will happen in September, if that has any relationship to perhaps a reversal of the energy that is responsible for this move to expel us for what we are, I guess, historically entitled to.
Yeah, I hear you. Definitely. That that is trust me, that's a interview in itself. But let's say that let's go back to May 1967. That's when a group of 350, led by Brother Ben Ami, left Chicago and headed for Liberia, destination being Israel. But the whole point was to denigritize and detox from having been, like I mentioned, slaves to one extent, but descendants of slaves. And again, reach out for freedom, but also to reconnect with our creator. That was one of the key factors, right? During that time, the Black Panther Party was moving, etc., and it was bordering on revolution in the streets. holding court in the streets, etc. Yeah, but something that was I was inspired to think on a larger level. I mean, if you depending on guns and bullets, but I mean, how many could you do? How many would you have? You know, then what would you do after that? Holler, throw a so it was something higher and more powerful that I was in search of. And so, okay, going back to the 350, we went to Liberia, stayed there approximately 3 years, and then we start migrating to Northeast Africa. Israel, that's a name that must be understood. Even the name Hebrew must be understood, and Israelite must be understood. These are things, Hebrew means one who has crossed over. It goes all the way back to ancestor. His name was Abram at one point. His name was expanded to Abraham, etc. All of those things without getting stuck in religiosity, right? I'm I'm sharing this information based upon my personal experience and the history that preceded me coming because I went there seeking cures for our people, the same racism and brutality, injustice that we're suffering now. I was able to look at that from another, as I said, we were going to Africa, but I didn't know exactly where. So when I heard about these brothers and sisters leaving Chicago in particular, then I became very interested. So I happened to meet the international ambassador, and I confronted him with, "Well, I hear your people are not doing so well over there in Israel, even you know, starving some." And he said, "Look, brother, let me sit down." And very humbly, he sat down and explained to me, "It ain't even like that, etc., etc." But he challenged me. He said, "If you really want to know about what's going on over there, you got to go." So less than a month later, I was on a plane going to Israel. All right. Now, two things need to be understood. Number one, Israel actually, if it were just, those that run the political, the government, etc., if it were just, they would go back and redo all of this, the whole thing. They're riding down a path of destruction. It's anti-prophetic even. First of all, it was Liberia, West Africa, that cast a vote that made in the UN that broke the tie and made it, how would you say, everybody, the vote authorized Israel to become a state, right? Ralph Bunche, I spoke of him earlier because of his birthday connection with both Marcus Garvey and Haile Selassie. He's the one that petitioned and went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize, first black man, African American, to gain that honor. So Israel, in fact, is indebted to an African country and an African descendant of slaves for even being voted into the UN, right? So we're talking about 1948, approximately the, uh, the cycle that brought that in. So now you look and you see our people who have left out seeking freedom and alignment with the Most High. Here you're looking at people who they really don't have enough karmic equity to be talking about throwing us out. We had the lowest per capita, how would you say, incidences of crime. Uh, you know, certainly not black on black crime, but we introduced veganism. As I said, we had a free clinic. We weren't operating out of racists. We was operating out of those that needed help, sick, etc. That included Israelis and anybody else that was in the country. So we have a shining record of integrity. You know what I'm saying? Hard work, diligence, all of that. So for them to do that is actually a breach of the whole, because even the scriptures, the ancient scriptures, would be for those to not forget the strangers, right? Or those who were oppressed, or those. All of that is written in the scriptures that they claim to be, how do you say, the chosen of the Most High, but they're not acting like that. So what did they do? Over a month ago, they sent letters to families saying that in 60 days that they had to leave Israel to go where? I have 7 children and 15 grandchildren born in Israel. Have never been to the United States or anywhere else. Speak fluent Hebrew, speak Russian, speak Arabic, etc. And they're talking about throwing them out. Throwing them out to where? They were born there. They were already due by being born there. They were due citizenship. But some type of dark interpretation of the law changed, because at first the law was how would you say, the criteria for returning to Israel is anyone that claimed to be an Israelite, right? And so they opened the doors to anybody returning from Poland, from all these places in Europe, right? But when we came, shortly after we came, and they were confounded as to what to do with this. What is this? Black people saying they're the true original Hebrews, not Jews, but so they changed the laws. And the laws changed to where you got to have a mother that's you have to be descendant of this. It was really unjust, injustice they were operating out of. So now they're going to take our people and throw them out, cast them out, and to where? Now, don't nobody came up with that. Wherever, they just got to leave Israel. So a couple of days later, they treating the Arab population, throwing them out of their houses, etc. So they answered with 1,300 rockets hitting Israel a few days after this throw the blacks out. So there is it says that Dr. King said that the moral arc of the universe moves slow, but it moves toward justice. Right now, when you talk about taking it now to the celestial, when you talk about the Great Conjunction, they were saying that the Great Conjunction took place somewhere after the winter solstice, which would have been December 22nd, 23rd, arguably. And
Yeah, once again, we're having a technical issue, and it's it's really sad to me that in the midst of all the understanding and information that we're receiving, we having all these issues with conveying this information. So I think probably what would be best is for us to reconvene at some point. Again, what I'd like to do is schedule this broadcast at a later date so that those of you who are watching us right now will have another opportunity to connect. Obviously, there is interest in what we're talking about right now, and I don't want to do the disservice of continuing the broadcast in the manner in which we are. So I see that his signal has actually dropped off. We're going to reschedule our interview with Brother Mocksherial and invite you all to tune in. You can tune in and be connected by subscribing to my YouTube channel. You'll get notifications of further broadcasts or future broadcasts. And also, if you follow me on Facebook, I post everything that I do broadcast-wise on Facebook. Thank you for joining me on Open Door Live today. It's been quite an interesting day. You know, another irony is that Brother Mocksherial is an astrologer, and we had further conversation about Mercury being in retrograde, and I think he made some comments that basically indicated that perhaps it's not as much as it's made out to be. I can only reflect on my personal experience and just reflecting on things that have happened today and things that have happened since May 22nd when Mercury went retrograde, that it is a phenomenon. It is something that we deal with, something that we have to be mindful of, and something that we have to navigate. So again, Thank you so much for joining me on Open Door Live today. I look forward to our future broadcasts, and if the universe will have it, we will bring Brother Mocksherial back and have another great conversation. But until then, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and do all that you can to make today your best day. Peace and prosperity to you all, and we will see you at some point in the future.